And if each of you could say your name when you graduated from CCSU and what school you teach at currently, and a word or maybe advice for current students, that would be appreciated. So I'm going to mute my mic and just whoever wants to jump in first can jump in.
Yeah, I'll start first. I just want to say thank you everyone for coming out. I greatly appreciate it. I graduated, it was the winter of 2018, so just about 2019. It was when I graduated. And I'm now currently, I'm a little bit of a different perspective. That I work at Eastern Connecticut State University, and I am the sprint and jumping coach for the track and field team. To also work with the cross country runners as well, and just recently got named as the intramurals and recreation coordinator as well. So there's a little bit of balancing act going on as I'm kind of learning this all. So nice to meet you all.
So I'll go next. My name is Nicole McCormick, and I graduated Central in the winter of 2017, so the year before Matt. I'm currently at Mohegan Elementary School in Montville. It's my first year teaching elementary. I've been teaching for 4 years, and I've taught all 3 levels already. So what better time to start a new grade level but during a pandemic, but it's been great so far. And yeah, my advice to you all, I guess early on in this, is just to always be involved, especially at your college level. Like I know Matt and I know each other just from being involved in PE club and even Rec Central, like different things on campus and in your community, especially because teaching is hard and you have to wear a lot of hats. So the best time to learn that is in college for sure. So but we'll speak more on that as well, but yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. Alex Clark. You can call me Coach Clark. You can call me Alex. However you want to call me. Teacher. I graduated 2014 from CCSU. I'm now a health and PE teacher, high school level at the historic Dunbar High School in Washington, D.C. It recently started a nonprofit program called Prime Ability, where we really work with people in the community. We work with our youth and really try to inspire lives through fitness. So I'm excited to be here today and learn from you guys, and hopefully you guys can also learn from me.
Awesome, thank you. So one of the things is we are all physical education majors. We all want to be teachers and help educate students on physical fitness. So I just want to hear a little bit of why you got into this field. How come you wanted to do this for your career?
So for me, that I've been coaching since I was, I got hired by Concord High School right out of high school to get into coaching, and something that I really put a lot of emphasis on. I kind of bounce between that. I also have, I'm one class away from a minor in math. So I just like kind of being able to kind of get around students, work with the young adults and kind of having a good friendship just to kind of guide them through. Everyone kind of comes from their different situations. So I just kind of like working with the general public, working with the young adults and making sure that they're kind of on the right path to continue their education and further their athletic goals as well. So.
Yeah, so similar to Matt, I actually growing up wanted to be a dentist. Clearly I'm not a dentist, but I always loved health and fitness. That was always something I liked, and I had really great health and PE teachers growing up, and that kind of planted the seed of like maybe that's something I could do. So yeah, I really enjoy working with kids of all levels. I've worked with all levels already, but just inspiring people to be better humans, to take care of themselves. It's a really rewarding profession, and every day something is different, which I also really like. But I think in the beginning it was just I wanted to, be that role model and that teacher to really inspire people to want to be their best self and their healthiest self. So that's what I always think it was. It really was. I woke up one day and was like, I want to be a PE teacher, as crazy as it is. So when people in interviews have been asked this question and I'm like, where do I circle back? But it was like, I wanted to be a dentist from like 2nd grade. And then I was like, nope, I want to inspire people to be healthier and to be better. As corny as that is, but I feel like I do a good job of it. So I like to say that's what I like to do. But
Yeah, so for me, I grew up kind of, and my mother always kind of put me in leadership roles. So like one of my first jobs was I was a lifeguard at the age of 16, and teaching like parent-child classes, and teaching swim lessons and things like that. Kind of, I guess, lack of a better word, like got my feet wet when it came to teaching and when it came to education. When I first started college, I went in as a football player, and I had dreams just like a lot of other kids and teenage kids. Like I wanted to go to NFL. I wanted to like be the man, and so I didn't really know. Like when I first came to CCSU, I didn't know what I wanted to major in. I didn't know that education was kind of my route, but I knew that I had the tools to inspire. I knew that like kids are sometimes captivated or inspired by some of the things that I say and some of the ways in which I move. And the inspiration piece is like the biggest part of my PE philosophy and like what I believe in. I put a lot of onus on character development. I put a lot of onus on students being able to find themselves and be able to find who they are and find their true self-identity. And I kind of use fitness to drive that focus in class. And so I've been in education now for 7 years, and it doesn't really feel like a job to me. I wake up every day and I love it. But you just need to find like what it is that works for you. Don't think that you have to go into it like having to be an expert at like what this is, or you got to find what works for you, because at the end of the day, the connection is the most important piece of it. And I think you guys all have like obviously the capability of doing it. You just gotta tap into what type of teacher and what type of educator you really want to be.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for everyone that's spoken about that. So Matt, I believe you had a presentation. I don't know if we were able to take care of it or get presentation rights for you, but Dr. Gagnon, no? Okay. Is it possible you could just talk about your presentation, what you did, and what it's about?
Hey, I'm ready for all setups here. So no presentation, I'm still going to be able to make it work. Just so you guys know, I'm Matthew DeMarco. I know we kind of talked a little bit about where I kind of come from, but I'm a 2018 Central graduate. And with that, I kind of talked a little bit about it right out of high school. That I essentially was recruited to Central for cross country and track, but ended up taking a job at Conard High School to be the assistant cross country and track coach there. And I was working with the sprinters, mainly the jumpers and distance runners, but kind of worked around with a little bit of everything. From there, I was able to take on a job also at Campton High School as the head women's cross country and track coach. And then once I was able to graduate, I ended up taking on a long-term PE subbing job at Seymour High School. So I did end up getting about 6 months in of being a PE teacher. And it was a little bit of a tough setup where I kind of had to come in over a couple people who were forced to resign. So it was a little bit of a sticky situation that made it a little bit difficult. I was also the head track coach there. So I was definitely busy and loved every second of it. Seymour, growing up in the Canton area, Seymour is a little bit different. So I was able to kind of get an appreciation of how different schools set up, how different setups, different people kind of working around with everything. So I was able to learn a whole lot from that, and through the Seymour track position really. And that I was able to take a position at Eastern Connecticut State University, where I now work with the sprinters and the jumpers. I love the position. That I'm there 24/7. Technically, I'm a part-time employee, but like this week I put in 75 hours. I'm constantly working, constantly looking to do what I can in order to help the university. I'm in charge of roughly around 55 student athletes, which is a great setup for me. I love it to death. I also a little bit dabbled in the night shift at Planet Fitness last year just to kind of make ends meet. And I just recently got the interim tag for being the head of intramurals and recreation, which for anyone that's really busting their behind, good things kind of happen if you put in the work and really kind of go about the stuff that you love. So they see that I was a part-time worker, constantly going at it, trying to help out as much as possible. So, and I kind of they're trying to throw extra jobs at me, even though I work crazy hours. And then during the summer, I know Dr. Gagnon and Dr. Martin love their golf. I work at Wintonberry Hills Golf Course as a nice little summer gig. So anytime that you guys want to go golfing, just let me know and I can get you in there. My big thing, especially with surrounding the pandemic, I feel like I got into coaching at the college level at possibly the worst time ever. But you got to understand that some things are a little bit bigger than sports. Some things are going to be bigger than the competitions and getting out to compete. So with that, I always tell my student athletes, since I really started coaching, attitudes make the whole difference. Whether you're a brand new student learning a sport or you're a college level athlete who's just trying to get in competitions. And I tell my student athletes all the time, you're either SpongeBob or you're Squidward. I don't work well with Squidwards at all. Everyone knows that. So during practices, you kind of have to come in with that SpongeBob mentality, looking to attack the day with that really, really intense enthusiasm. If you're just kind of lugging around like Squidward, there's no way for me to kind of connect with people. Coach Nick Saban for University of Alabama talks about it's kind of a similar setup where overachievers and slackers don't really they don't work well together just because the two mindsets constantly clash. So I'm always telling people that in order to work with me, you got to be a SpongeBob, constantly wanting to step up and do the right things. Once the kind of pandemic kind of hit, fall sports, we weren't too sure about what was going to happen. I recommend everyone to go watch Last Chance University on Netflix if you haven't already. And with that, it's about community college football and guys who are trying to make it to the NFL. For a certain dynamics or whatever's going on, they weren't able to get into D1 schools with scholarships, and that's the constant goal for them. There's a lady there, the academic coordinator, Miss Brittany Wagner, who I try to use everything that she talks about in the Netflix series. I try to resemble that. I have people coming into my office all the time, and really the last thing I talk about with my student athletes is track. I'm always kind of talking with them about how they're kind of going about things, how they're doing things, their job, their personal lives, how's mom and dad doing, how's grandma doing. So I'm constantly kind of asking questions that don't really involve track, just so that I kind of get an understanding of, okay, what's this person doing? Coach Clark was talking about how he had aspirations for the NFL. At the D3 level, especially when it comes to track and cross country, we're looking to breed a whole bunch of people who are ready to get out and work. I don't want to say I'm against professional running, but if you're looking to make a little bit of money and have a quality lifestyle, you're looking to kind of get out, get a good education, get a good job. So that's the one thing that I'm constantly preaching. I look over the academics as well. All 4 sports teams that I kind of look after had a 3.5 GPA or higher last semester. So we take a lot of pride in making sure our academics get well. So like I said, the SpongeBob kind of goes back to the SpongeBob and Patrick's. We may not have had competitions this fall, but we were able to do a whole lot more just because we weren't just kind of walking around saying, oh, what are we going to do now? We still had plenty of work to do, and we were able to kind of get things accomplished. And like I said, I just kind of go back and I'm going to advocate to everyone to kind of go watch and see how Brittany Wagner kind of sets up and not only is she there for academics, but she's kind of there to kind of teach everyone and show them how things get done off of the field rather than constantly on the field. When it came to getting our student athletes prepared and trying to get them to move around, we created a Shamrock Challenge. This was March 27th, March 28th. We have a couple student athletes on the team who love doing design, electronic design. I run the Eastern Instagram page for the cross country and track team as well. I had a student set up a design, and we kind of created our own meet right at the kind of beginning of the pandemic because we lost our outdoor track season, trying to get everyone involved. So I'm able to get student athletes to do things rather than just running or anything like that. I'm able to incorporate what they're going to school for. And he was able to create a nice little Shamrock design and got everyone into essentially their own little meet that we were able to host on their own, making sure people did things and using an app called Strava. You're either able to hold your phone or with a watch, you could kind of set up ways that you can run and track your running. You could see progression over a certain amount of time. You could time how fast you want to run a mile. So we use Strava often, and Strava in a pandemic situation is perfect because I don't have to be there. I'm able to check out on their watch. They could post it up. It's kind of like a Facebook, but for running. It's not just for running. You could use it for biking. You could use it just for any type of activity. So with that, we were able to kind of get the all 55, 60 kids kind of excited and still competing while not being able to have our own season. So we're always constantly doing stuff like that. And then I kind of told people to try and set up different fun workouts and send them to me so that I could get them up on the Instagram page. ECSU_XCTF is going to be my shameless plug. If you guys want to go follow that. I also have a girl who she was doing squats, but with a broomstick and 2 backpacks. So when the gym was all closed, she was still getting her squats in. She was able to put a whole bunch of books into her backpack and make sure things kind of worked so that she was able to get in the necessary work so that she wasn't missing out too much because all the gyms were closed. I know without that, everyone thinks, oh, no gym's closed, we don't have to do any work. I'm constantly telling people that there's really no excuse. You can find different ways to do that. So that broomstick with 2 backpacks was her bench. It was her squat rack. And I love the effort that she really kind of put into that. My students, they're not afraid to fail. At least I try to preach to not be afraid to fail and do things the wrong way. At times, we're all human. We're all going to mess up at certain points. And the big thing that I tell them is that make sure that it's constantly a learning progression, because whether you're working with elementary school kids, they're going to mess up constantly. And you have to make sure that you're not kind of scaring them away, because if you're just constantly using running as a punishment or anything like that, they're going to get scared to run. So I'm always pushing people to learn from their mistakes, learn from their failures. Sometimes their mistakes are just as simple as, hey, next time I want you to do this. Sometimes mistakes are, hey, you have to sit in my office and really learn how we're going to do things. I'm a big football fan. Coach Scott Frost, when he got introduced at the University of Nebraska, he said that sometimes if you miss tackles and drops and balls, we're not going to yell at you, but what we're going to do is we're going to teach you the right way to do it. At my job, I'm not a big yeller or a screamer, so I just like to make sure that I'm telling people if they have a big mess up, I'm not going to yell at them. I'm going to make sure that they learn how to adjust on it. So that's the big thing when it comes to me. I don't yell much. I just like to make sure that students know that when they mess up, and it happens often, that mess up doesn't happen twice or 3 times, because we're constantly learning from our mistakes. Preparation, especially on my end, I constantly have to know the rules that are going on within the university or the high school that I'm working with when it comes to the amount of people I could have in a room, especially now. Knowing the constraints that I'm kind of up against, knowing the time restraints, I want to make sure that I'm being as productive as possible with the limited space that we have. So when it comes to my practices, anything like that, I plan, I prep, I adjust, I readjust, and then I evaluate once we're done with my practices, just to make sure, hey, are things going the way that I wanted them to? Am I being as efficient as possible with my time? And then being flexible is the big thing, because if you're kind of noticing, oh, so-and-so is not really getting it, I try to push that you're constantly evaluating and reevaluating your teaching, because the first time that you teach something, it's not going to be perfect. That second time, that third time around, when you really smooth things out, especially with wanting to make sure social distancing and everything like that, I'm always big on evaluating and reevaluating how I'm able to go about my practices and making sure people are getting their work done. The other thing is I always have a plan B, C, D, and E ready to go in case that you never really know, oh, maybe you don't have the gym time that you need. Maybe someone is coming in with another PE class and you kind of have to make some slight adjustments. I'm constantly ready I have like 3 different workouts planned throughout the day, just in case there kind of has to be a slight adjustment. So I'm always kind of playing for the worst, but hopefully plan A works. And the other thing is, when it comes to the team effort, I kind of narrow things in, and I'm the head of my team when it comes to making sure my student athletes are working well. But then I also have the entire athletic department that I have to work well with. So it kind of starts from the top on down with President Elsa Nunez, her and the Vice President of Student Affairs, Walter Diaz. They've been huge with trying to give us the opportunity to compete in practice. Not every school is lucky enough to say that. So to have people like that, as well as my athletic director, Lori Rungsmeyer, and my head coach, Kathy Meniza, we're constantly working with them, constantly advocating so that we're saying, hey, we're able to do this. We're able to do this well. We're able to make sure students are safe while being able to get out, have that good interactions with their roommates, their friends, people on campus. What we're constantly advocating. And the great thing is that the real higher ups, the president of the university, the vice president of student affairs, they have a trust in us to make sure that we're doing things the right way. So having that constant communication with the people that you're working with is huge, because you just want to make sure that, hey, we're able to go about this in a safe way. We're always sending out plans to make sure that we're kind of on the same page. That the facility manager who's in charge of figuring out gym space, God help him, Smitty. Smitty's the best. Smitty works 24/7. I have to make sure that I'm in constant communication with him to make sure we have the time in the gym. We have a sports information director who's taking pictures at the meets that we host. We have a little bit of everyone who kind of pitches in to make sure that these students are able to get what they're looking for. And that's just a chance to compete. So by doing that, we're able to push all the right buttons, work well with our colleagues to make sure that we're giving a good final product to the student athletes. And that's really the big thing. We were fortunate enough to have a meet last week, a safe meet. No one ended up violating any rules. There was no COVID cases. And by doing that, we kind of showed that, hey, we could really think about having meets and doing things in a smart and precise way so that it doesn't really affect too many people. And the president loved it. She was like, oh, great. That kind of shows that we can really do things well. Vice President of Student Affairs, once again, loved it. It was like, hey, we're just happy. Everyone was kind of get going. And now we're kind of going on to the, hey, let's start to plan a second meet so that we could start to get things going. It was the first one in New England since last year. So we were kind of the guinea pigs, but it really worked out with Coast Guard. We ended up facing Coast Guard. So it was a great meet. The final product of it was everyone kind of competing. I haven't seen that many smiles in a long time. Everyone was kind of happy with how things went. So that's about all I have for that presentation. But it's the end product is just so worth it to make things work, because with working well with others, it's so easy to say no. No athletics, and it kind of takes a little bit of time to really work with everyone and smooth things out. So.
Awesome. Thank you for all that. That was a lot of great information. Again, I saw Dr. Gagnon posted it. Matt is a coach, and I just want to reiterate this. He can yell. None of you are yelling at students. That's what Dr. Gagnon said in the chat. So it's great advice. So we have a wide range of students actually in the Zoom right now. Some of us are first-year PE students. Some of us are student teaching right now. What are some words of advice, how you got through the program, and what are your suggestions just to get through it? Because it is a tough program. I am now in EXS 407. That's one of the hardest classes. So what are some of your advices for maybe we could get Nicole or Alex answer this first and then go to you, Matt.
Use your resources, especially with XFIZ. With anything, really, just lean on your people, because even when you go out of the field, it's going to be honestly the same people you reach out to. I know Elizabeth spoke with you guys her last presentation. Her and I are like this, especially now that I teach elementary. Her and I this summer were planning and doing all kinds of stuff. But you want to have a good bond, and you also don't want to be a mooch though. So don't be that person that's just like, what did you do for this lesson, or what did you do for whatever. Make sure you're also contributing and helping people out, because it is tough, and especially with what we're all dealing with right now, it's not an ideal time to work or to do school or any of that. So and to be kind to your professors. I know you guys are so lucky. We are so lucky to have like, it's just a great department, but those are the people that are going to advocate jobs for you someday. They get the phone calls. So I've been with Dr. Gagnon the last couple of years, whether we're golfing or something, and she'll get a call on her Apple Watch because someone's calling from a school, you know, to recommend one of you guys. So just being kind to your people, your professors, and to not and reinvent the wheel, but also help the wheel, if that makes sense. Yeah, make a good community.
Alex, do you have any words of wisdom for getting through this program?
Yeah. That's always a tough question, because I think sometimes when you're in college, you don't know like exactly what type of teacher you're going to be. You know, you learn about the content in which that you need to teach. You learn about different ways to deal with behaviors. I'm sure you guys have gone through that. You learn new skills that you haven't. I mean, when I went to CSU, that was the first time I got on like a balance beam and did gymnastics, and that was like the craziest class I've ever taken in my life, right? And so, you know, you learn all of these things, but you know, I think you can't always be taught what it is, like how it is that you can't always be taught what your philosophy is going to be. I'm sorry I'm stuttering so much, but you can't be taught what you could be taught how you want to create your philosophy. You can be taught how you want to kind of break it down and manage it and kind of organize what you want your philosophy to be. But you can't be taught that. So you got to find that within yourself. And, you know, there are some teachers that are laid back teachers. There are some teachers that are like, they wear their passion on their sleeve. There are some teachers that are solely, you know, their sole focus is keeping kids out of trouble and like making sure kids stay off the streets and making sure kids are in productive activities. And that's kind of like what my role is, right? So you got to find like what it is that helps you, that makes you come to work every day, and why it is that you want to be a teacher. I know that sounds like a cliche, and that sounds like kind of like elementary, like why do you want to become a teacher? That's such a basic question. But like once you find exactly what it is and why you decided to become a PE teacher, all of your lessons, no matter if you're teaching kids how to jump rope, no matter if you're teaching kids how to like run one lap during a pacer test, you're going to find excitement in it, because you're going to know who you are and you're going to know kind of what you're all about. And that's what I would take the time for. I would take that time. If I can go back to college, I would have taken more time in trying to figure out what I wanted to be, and how I wanted to go about implementing whatever in my class, right, from day one. Because again, like it doesn't matter, even if you think these things through, you know, you're still going to be new to it. Like you're still, when you start teaching, you start jumping into the field, it's still going to be, you're still going to have to take baby steps, right? But at least you'll have some level of confidence and some level of like base to stand on when you guys finally are able, you guys get that job. You'll have something to stand on at the end of the day. And so, yeah, just take the time right now, man. It's just really like identify what type of teacher you want to be, how you want to go about implementing curriculum, and you know what it is that your niche is. So if they talk to you, I see, I'm just calling a random name, but like Patrick Norton, I see on the call. If they talk about Mr. Norton or Coach Norton, it's like Coach Norton got to be known for something, right? He can't just be a regular PE teacher, because they already think certain things about us. They already think that we roll the ball out and we just let kids play basketball all day. They already think that, like, you know, our class doesn't matter as much as like a science or a math or a social studies or chemistry, right? They already think that those things. So you have to like really put on. You have to really put on to show that like your subject or what it is that you're teaching matters. And I just really encourage y'all to put a lot of onus on that.
And I want to can I add really quickly?
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to add to what Alex was saying that, oh, sorry, Matt, I didn't mean to interrupt you. To add to that, to explore while you're in college. And your professors give you so many opportunities. Right now it's hard because of COVID, but when you have 30 practicum hours or whatever to do, go the extra bit. Like when you are home on breaks or when you're able to, again, we're in a weird time, but you know, go to your old elementary school and volunteer. Like those were things that I did just to help myself really. And I think that's why I felt prepared to teach all three levels in my first 3 years of teaching is I exposed myself. And even, you know, when Dr. Martin had us go to chapter 126, I'm not sure if you guys still do that. Yeah, like just getting involved. I now work with special ed students usually in the summer in special needs. And I really found a passion with that through that practicum, but you don't know these things until you do them. And to do them with your peers, it's the best part too, just to, you know, be there for each other and to add support. So really, because then really once you're in the field, you know, I wish now that I teach elementary, I could just go to a random high school someday and like watch my friend teach or whatever. Because once you're in the field, you're working. So experiment now, and then you'll know, and you'll have those experiences to help you when you are out there. Because also in our field, it's so hard to get a job anywhere. So really, you're going to take whatever you get, whether it's an adapted PE only position or it's an elementary position or a high school. You really can't come out of there saying you want to teach high school health, because, which not many of us want to do anyway, but you want to be well-rounded and have experience too when you go to an interview and you can say, I did these things and I, you know, can do this job because of this. So
to go off of that, we had a pretty tight knit crew that graduated at the same time, and because of that, we still have group chats where we're sending back and forth. I mean, Brent Orozco is the one that hits the group chat the most, and he always says, "Hey guys, I did this with my crew today. What are you guys doing?" And Rochelle Anderson's always the next one to kind of get back and say, "Oh, I had a health lesson that I did this and incorporated all of this stuff." And then it's kind of the good way to kind of get us excited about what we're doing, how we're kind of going about things, just so that everyone's able to kind of say, "Oh, if they're doing that in this, how are we going to be able to one up each other and be a better teacher than the person?" Even though our districts might not collide, we're constantly trying to kind of one up each other and make sure that we're kind of being that professor that Coach Clark was talking about, where kind of being that cool PE teacher who's able to really make people understand what they're doing and how to go about it, just because it gets the student excited rather than just, "Oh, we're doing this today." By making your lessons exciting and really getting everyone involved is going to be the way that you're able to get people, the students, able to learn.
So one thing that I had, it was a great experience for me for school, was I actually got to last semester be with Alex Clark virtually for his classes. And I kind of want to talk about primability a little bit, because this is like one of the best things you could ever hear. So Alex, if you could you talk about primability and what you do at Dunbar High School?
Yeah. So you know, I'm super passionate about being a PE teacher. That's like the biggest reason why, you know, I'm here today. And then Teddy, you know, appreciate you. You know, it was a pleasure like having you come every day, man. Teddy was there all the time, teaching the kids, talking to the kids, man. So definitely want to give you your flowers, you know, right away before I jumped into this primability stuff. But yeah, man, I started primability back in 2018. It started off as you know, I don't know if you guys know much about like the DC high school network, but you know, some of the top high schools are down here. Some of the top private schools are down. We got the Master High School, we got St. John's, we got Paul VI. There's so many NBA players and NFL players that have come from this hotbed, which is called this DMV. So I really, you know, I started off coaching AAU for Team Takeover. I'm a basketball coach naturally, and I started training a lot of these athletes. Training athletes for Gonzaga, training athletes and working with fathers and parents and things like that. And, you know, I knew that like the work that I wanted to do, I wanted to scale it so that I can impact communities. And I'm really big on community work, more so than like my class per se. You know, I think my community work drives the work that I do in my class, because my kids are so involved with my community work. But yeah, so it really started off as like a sports training program. I was training kids, got kids on the field, got kids on the court, and then it really parlayed into a movement. Our hashtag is Stay Prime, and so like staying prime is, you know, being at your best at all times, and, you know, not letting anyone get in the way of like whatever it is and whatever the things that you're trying to accomplish. And you know, it moved on to community workouts. I know Dr. Gagnon has super supported me in 2020 with my workouts, especially the event that I had in Connecticut. And also Dr. Bishop came to a couple too. So appreciate you guys. But yeah, so I started doing a lot of community work, and like I was telling you guys before, I use wording and I use verbiage to drive the work that I'm doing in class. So, you know, we split our workout for the event into 3 different categories. Split it into transparency, resiliency, and ambition, right? And we really focused on those words to drive the workout. Because I think that, like, if the mindset is right, the body will move, right? The body can't move if the mindset's not right. And so I'm really huge on not just like that character development, but, you know, that mindfulness piece as well. So, you know, community events were super cool. And then, you know, I was riding. I'm a biker, so I love riding bikes. And, you know, I was riding throughout the city. I was riding through all these trails, and, you know, it was beautiful. Like, you know, some of the sites that you see in this area are gorgeous, and you can see it in Connecticut. You can see it anywhere where you have like good foliage and all that stuff, right? And I was wondering, you know, have my students seen this? And I think sometimes when you, as a teacher, you just think about like, what are the things that you're experiencing physically, and do your students have access to those same things, right? Because that can actually turn your learning experiences into more positive and more powerful learning experiences. So, you know, I was riding through all these trails, you know, going through mountains and all of this stuff. And, you know, I'm wondering, like, have my students ever seen these things? They've lived in Washington, D.C. longer than me. I really wanted to provide them with that experience. And so, you know, I hopped right online. I was on Facebook. I was sending emails to different corporations. I was just grinding, man, come August. And we were able to collect over 60 bikes. We were able to collect tons of helmets. And, you know, we started a biking program that served over 200 kids in D.C., not just at Dunbar, but also at different schools throughout Washington, D.C. I'm going to actually drop a link really quickly if you guys wanted to read about it. I'm going to drop that here just so you can see it as I talk. But yeah, so we really started that. You know, one of the biggest driving forces of it, my school, Dunbar High School, just to give you a quick little background, is 98% African American students. So I serve all Black students. My school also is the first high school in the country to serve African American students as well. So it's a historically Black high school. So you can look it up, you can Google it. But you know, it's the historic Dunbar High School. There's been a ton of people that have come out of there. And so that's actually what made it even more powerful. So we started doing our bike rides. You know, ton of community support behind it. Ton of people that came out and started riding with us. And you know, our rides probably averaged, you know, 70 to 120 people per ride. Just because like people really wanted to get involved. People really wanted to give back. I will say, like, just to pause, like what I'm talking about right now, I will say that, like, you know, one big thing when you're trying to build a strong program is I want you guys to think about how, when you get that job and you finally start teaching and you start getting into the flow of things, how are you going to make your program better? And I think that, like, for me, you know, I taught for the first 4 years at Eastern High School. This is my second year at Dunbar High School. And I didn't, up until this biking program has started to blow up, I really wasn't into like the funding piece, right? Like you will get like funding from your school every year. You'll buy like the things you need that are all ripped up, and then like you just keep it moving, right? And I didn't really jump into other ventures that could provide our programs more money, and so that we can do more things with our kids. And I would say, like, guys, just like do your research. So you get that job, start doing your research on different grants and different opportunities that you could do for your school, so that like your program can stick out, right? Because we see all of these different like IB programs, AP programs, all these different the programs that are getting tons of money to make their program better. But like sometimes PE programs, we're stuck there with like 4 dodgeballs and 2 or 3 jump ropes, and like we're struggling, and we wonder why we're struggling is because 1, we're not getting enough money from our school, and then 2, we're personally not doing enough. And so I would really, really just like encourage you guys to like start practicing, like, either take a grant writing class or just like practicing working with grants, because that's gonna set you apart when you get that job, and it's especially gonna set you apart when you apply for another job and then they ask you, what was it that you did for your former school. This is gonna make you look better overall. So, so we started our biking program. Right now we're on a break right now. We're starting again in March 22nd. So we're relaunching March 22nd. We'll have a cycling team this upcoming spring. Where we also have like a mentorship program called Bikes and Bagels, where we partner with like a local deli. It's called Call Your Mother Deli. It was like the first like restaurant that Joe Biden went to when he like first got inaugurated. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, my driving force behind all of this, I told you guys a ton of information. My driving force behind all of this is, more kids on bikes, less kids on the street. Throughout your career, you're going to have traumatic moments that are not just related to your job, right? They're related to like your life. So, in my 6 years down here in DC, I've lost 12 students that I was extremely close to gun violence. Like say what up, dap a kid up one day, you know what I'm saying? Be safe. And then the next morning you read that he got shot and killed, right? Because our kids come from some tough neighborhoods, man, tough neighborhoods. And so, my whole aim moving forward is like, I want as many kids in our program, because I know during that idle time, especially now during the pandemic, during that idle time, there's more room to get in trouble. Doesn't matter if you're from the hood, doesn't matter if you're from the city. Like if any of us, if we have too much time in our hands and we're not being productive, that's too much time to get into trouble. And so, that's kind of what my whole purpose is going to be the rest of my career. Until, we kind of eradicate that, especially in the Black community, which I work with, super, super close. And so, if you guys have any questions as far as, like diversity, within education, if you guys got any questions as far as, working with students that come from backgrounds that, are super, super less fortunate, I'll be more than free to work with you and talk to you guys. Similar to Teddy, I keep my links on my classes wide open. So if anytime you guys want to come in and like jump in on a lesson and kind of see like what it is that I do, every teacher is different. I'm not saying that I'm the greatest, right? But, every teacher is different. So if you guys have time throughout your day, and you're not kind of doing anything, even if you're at the gym and you want to just listen, during class, feel free to jump into any lesson, because, learning is power, and, people gave back to me and taught me a lot. So, I can only do my part in giving back, and helping you guys out as well.
All right. So I just want to take a quick break from me asking questions. We have 22 people on this call. I want to have you guys ask questions. So if you want, unmute your mic. If you want to raise your hand, I can see most of you. So if you have any questions, just raise your hand and get those questions out. We've gotten a lot of information so far. We're all one. So I'll mute my mic. If you have a question, raise your hand. All right. No questions. Okay. So I guess I will continue to go with my questions. All right. Patrick, I see you. Thank you.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. How are you finding ways to stay motivated during this time, and then keep your students motivated both mentally and physically, to participate in virtual classes and to stay on track, if that makes any sense?
I muted, just realized. So that's a really good question. I kind of wish, because I taught high school, like I said, last year, and in May I found out I was getting moved to elementary. So I kind of wish I saw, because it was hard keeping high school kids involved in the spring. Online learning was not like what it is now, where we're mostly going live, and even just hearing from my former high school coworkers, it's very different. But I think the biggest thing, because now with elementary, and I know even just with the high schoolers, any age kid, they're struggling so bad right now. And I think just if you are a person that is positive to them and that can, be there for them, they will want to show up for you. And even with my high school kids, I found that just, on Google Classroom, like one girl, she'd always tell me about her dog. So I made sure on Google Classroom to be like, hey, I'm buying a puppy this weekend. Like just things that, one, give them communication, because they're all struggling with not having as much of that anymore. But just being that person that they want to be around, really. We all know those people in our life that when they do something, we want to show up for them. So if we can be that person for our kids, our students or our athletes that they want to do well for, that they want to show up for, then I think that kind of the motivation's like underlying, and they want to be there. Because even it's, as we had a remote snow day yesterday, that was Friday. And it's funny because the music and the art teacher and the librarian, we always, talk like, how many showed up for you today? I get full classes, and I'm the new teacher, really. I just met these kids in August, and I really rarely see them. And, not to toot my own horn, and PE is fun. I mean, especially with elementary, they really, really think I'm a rock star. But I'm also, they come on, and then they I don't know. I've really seen with this age of just, making connection, and that trumps all motivation. And then even how you said just motivating yourself, like Alex said, finding your reason to show up, and if you are in a job that you do love that doesn't feel like a job, it's easy, but there are days where you just don't want to, especially with everything teachers are going through right now, and just the stress at work and everything else. There's a lot of energy going around, but just you have to find your reason to show up and take care of yourself and practicing what you preach so you can show up to be that awesome person for your students or your athletes. I like to work out before work, and this school year, even in the winter, I never have done this before. I'm, working out before work when it's dark. So we have to take care of ourselves, and because when we take care of ourselves, then we can show up as a better person. So, just if you are there for them, then motivation really doesn't matter. They'll show up for you. So, but you have to show up for them. So,
energy is contagious too. If you come in every day ready to rock and roll, you're gonna get people excited to move around, even if it's virtually. If you show up, kind of like how I mentioned about the SpongeBob's and the Squidwards, where if you show up every single day ready to rock and roll, you're gonna get your students excited. Whether it's, it still happens now when I'm working with college kids. So it's kind of the energy that you portray, because if you let them slack and you kind of give them a little bit of we're gonna kind of like, I'll let him get away with this one for right now. They're going to start to use that and kind of take a little bit too much. And so bring in energy, keep up the energy, because everyone just wants to have that excitement in their life. You just want to make sure that you're constantly on them, making sure everyone's excited and ready to move around. So energy is contagious.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm really seeing that. I mean, I've had kids, third graders come in and they'll be like, oh, Mrs. So-and-so is really stressed out today, because it's stressful, and, I've noticed, and I'm sure you guys have already noticed, PE people are really awesome people. We all share very similar values and personalities, and so we're almost like a breath of fresh air for people, for the most part. My first job that I was at in Killingly, it was a very toxic school, and Elizabeth, who spoke to you guys last time, she actually taught in that district too. But there's bad energy is a thing, like Matt said, and you don't want to be that person because it's everywhere, as we know. So just be that positive person, for sure.
Is there any other questions? Dr. Gagnon, thank you.
Yeah, I was hoping that Matt and Nicole and Alex, if you could give our undergrads the best tip right now on how to hunker down and plow through this awful, awful time. Like, what would be your suggestion for them? Because they're working so hard and they're doing the best they can, but it's beating them down like it beats down educators too. So, like, what's your 20-second pep talk for them?
Yeah, I would say that plan everything out in advance. That know what you're going to do. If you're a senior this year, make sure that you have everything kind of ready to rock and roll by the time that, because May is going to come around faster than you think. So you want to make sure that you're prepped, ready to go. Maybe you're a junior. Think about ways that you're going to get involved in either some type of school or some type of activity that you can put on your resume. Really game plan stuff, because you may think, oh, I have so much time. But really, really plan out, oh, I want to do this. Oh, I want to get involved here, because by doing that, if you write it down, your body starts to think, oh, I really want to do this. I really want to get on top of it. Oh, I want to take my praxis. Let me write down, or let me start to think about scheduling dates. Just because by the time that you start to schedule stuff out, everything begins to fall into place.
Yeah, and to add to that, like I have said already, take care of yourself and sleep and eat well and move your body. And really, this is the best time to find your good coping skills. Like, find what helps you get through hard times, because it's something that for all of us in this pandemic world of teaching and being a student, find what makes you feel good and what will help you, again, show up to be a good person. Because then as you move forward and you want to plan and you want to do well on your assignments, like, that will all come a little better because you've taken care of yourself. And that's such a huge thing. It's me, even just being, observing the other people I work with right now. People are not taking care of themselves, and we need to. We have to, or we can't function, and we can't show up for our people, our students. So
yeah, for me, I piggyback off of both of those things. I would say, like, journaling has been, like, really big for me. Not just, like, making sure things like get accomplished, like deadlines and things like that, but just been also a great way for, like, me to reflect. I know that sounds crazy because, like, you guys are young and there's 1,000 things going on at one time, but, like, I journal every day, like, at least once or twice a day. Kind of all, like, the serious events that went on throughout my day. It just allows me to reflect. Right now I got my hands in so many different I got my hands in so many different pots. I'm, like, working with so many different people, and there's so many moving pieces. And I'm sure, Dr. Gagnon, Dr. Martin, Dr. Bishop, I'm sure you guys can all relate to that. Just, like, being able to manage, like, I got this meeting, I got this going on, and especially in the virtual space, because it's like your time is so, like, meticulous, right? It's like, it's just like everything has to be in order, and everything needs to be, like, on time, right? And you got to, like, keep clicking these links and, like, trying to log on to, like, all these 1,000 things at a time. So yeah, man, just, like, writing those things down, and then also, setting deadlines for yourself. Like, set, like, realistic deadlines for yourself. Meaning, like, if you want to work at East Hartford High might not have no PE openings right now. But, like, email East Hartford High, email people from the school and see how you can get involved, right? If that's the school, right? The Southington High School. I'm starting to lose all the names for the schools of Connecticut because I'm here in DC. But, like, Southern High School or, like, Glastonbury High School, if that is, like, your dream job, then, like, start reaching out to people at that school. Obviously in a way that's, like, professional and, like, you're greeting them in the right way, but, like, people want to hear from you guys. People want to hear what students are doing, and, like, want to hear, like, what your passion is. And so, I would just, like, again, like, I'll set those deadlines. I'll write down, how I feel, and, and reflect about kind of what your day is, because it allows you to have a routine. It allows you to have your structure. I think, I think before Nicole was talking about, making sure that, you're taking care of your body. And like, my day, I haven't always been that way. I'm 28 years old. I haven't always like been the most routine based person, because it could be one thing. It could be like you go out on a Sunday and you have a couple too many drinks, and then like Monday, your whole Monday is all thrown off because like you messed up your routine. And so but just like really sticking to like what it is, and like being present in the moment and being like organized is like what I would suggest you to do, because we're all a creature of habits, right? We're all creature of habits. And so if we have, bad habits, that's going to perpetuate into our teaching, and then we're going to be a lazy teacher. And it's very, very easy for people to label you guys as lazy PE teachers. They already want to say that. Right? And so it's like, you don't want to ever open up the room or open up the floodgate for you to be like, for people to say like, oh, like they don't be doing nothing in their class, or like that class is easy. Like, nah, that's the least fit. I hate that. Like, that is the thing that drives me nuts the most, and like sometimes like causes me to like, at times when I was less mature, right, causes me to have, friction with other people that I might work with internally, not going back and forth with them, but like, one, don't call me a gym teacher. Do not call me a gym teacher, right? That's not who I am, right? I'm not a gym teacher. You see all these things that I'm doing? Like, don't call me that, right? That's a place, right? And also, respect what I do. So don't assume that like, just because they're in PE class, that you can pull this kid out for a meeting. No, this is a hard class too, right? This is an important class as well. So like being able to like, just think about like how you're going to handle conflict, being able to reflect, and then also being able to set yourself up with deadlines, to being able to reach out to what you want, how you want to set your career up. I would say that like those are like super, super important. I still do those things now because again, it's a habit. So I'm always following up with people. I'm always like reaching out to people, and I'm not afraid to do it because I've been doing it for so long now. And so if I would have done like, like this biking program, or started this organization when I was fresh out of college, man, I probably wouldn't even be in the classroom anymore. This probably be a whole like, whole company at this point, And so I wasted time because I didn't think about where I wanted to be when I was closing in on 30, right? I didn't think about those things. And so I want you to think about like, yeah, I want to be a PE teacher, but what do I want to do? Like, how do I want to scale PE and make that more for me? If you just want to be a PE, that's fine. If you want to be a PE teacher, that's fine. But I'm sure a lot of you guys want to make more than what a teacher makes. And a lot of you guys are going to work super, super hard for what you do. So you should be rewarded for all the work that you put in. And so, just set yourself up. I would just that'll be my biggest advice to you. Set yourself up.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions? All right, so I'll get back to it. So we have a couple of high school teachers here. One of the things that I've learned throughout the program is we don't learn that much about health, and health isn't really driven in our program. So what is one way that you taught health and like learned health overall, if you want to be a high school, if you don't mind?
So my initial interest in being a PE teacher was I wanted to be a health teacher. My middle school health teacher was amazing. She was my high school lacrosse coach, and she's still like a good friend of mine. So what I did, when I was in PE 111, that first winter break of college, I went home and I went to my old middle school and I watched her teach for like a week. And, you will probably at some point in your career teach health. And most of the time you do feel unprepared. And also every health class is different. I taught health at the middle school I was at, my first job. And I taught 8th grade and 6th grade, which was two very different, levels and topics that were talked about. And then I taught at the high school when I was at high school last year. So really just get into a health room, get into a health class, do your own research. A lot of textbook health is it's not applicable to kids these days. I think they're changing that and they're changing textbooks, but I've never used a health textbook. It'll help you survive, and that's what a lot of my coworkers did. They would just do textbook work the entire time. But health is also a great place where you can have those conversations that you can't always have in PE. Reproductive health, my favorite thing to teach, and I'm so sad I can't teach that anymore, but you need to get comfortable having conversations like that. And I know as a female, sex ed or just, human body can be easier for us to speak on. But, having males as my co-teachers, they found health to be really uncomfortable. So guys, if you can, go to, and ladies, all of us, everyone, go to health classrooms you can visit. Again, it's a weird time to visit schools right now, but, and get comfortable teaching. And actually, I forget what the first health class is, 210 maybe was the first, it might be different now anyway, but the first health methods class we had to take at Central. So I was only a second semester freshman, PE 405 now, that's what it's called. I taught reproductive health to my class, and Barb Westwater had tears because she's like, no one in my years of teaching has taken that as their peer teaching lesson. I'm like, I wanted to try it. And again, the different things come easier to other people. I don't like teaching basketball. I'm terrified of teaching basketball, but I can teach y'all the anatomy of the male and the female, like that. So with health, because it's usually an uncomfortable spot for people going into PE, just get exposed and try not to use a textbook. Try to it's a really special class to have conversation with your kids. So if you do get in a position where you teach PE and health, don't just teach or treat health like a textbook class. Make sure you treat it with just as much passion as your other classes. But yeah, and again, use your resources. So connect with other health teachers that your people that you graduated with that might already teach health, other people at your school if they're already doing that. There's also a Health Teacher Central group on Facebook where I've gotten a lot of my ideas from. And also, I could go on and on about this, but because health really needs to change. And, our curriculum, it's so much more than just, balancing on my plate, and all that stuff. But just being up to date with, if you're teaching teens, being up to date with the current lingo that they're using, current issue. My first year teaching health, juuling was a massive issue. It's really not as bad, just general like vaping now, which is great. But I had to educate myself on a Juul, and my neighbor is actually a health teacher too, and he confiscated so many. So him and I one night were like, we got to learn about these things because we're teaching these kids and they're coming to our classrooms. And he was middle school in Fairfield, and he's like, and I'm at a middle school at a low income school in Killingly, and we're like, how are kids, So just knowing what they're, and with the whole movement with LGBTQ and transgender, using proper lingo is so important. Don't just go in there teaching textbook because it's not gonna work. So you have to educate yourself. So do your research, please. Don't just go in and be blind and be like, oh, it's just my last period class every other day, I'll just wing it. Give it the same care that you would PE.
The other thing I want to add on to that is that when I was a long-term sub at Seymour, that I had no curriculum. So it was a little bit easier for me to kind of make things up as I went. And Seymour has roughly about half of their students on free or reduced lunch. So I went through a whole setup of teaching kids how to garden and how they can get food from growing a garden. And we actually had a small garden in the classroom. And the kind of end project was they were able to take home a couple tomato plants and try and grow it to as big as possible and get a couple tomatoes out of it. So it's something that is kind of applicable to students where who knows what their home life situation is, but I had people bringing in pictures of, oh, look at how big my tomato plant is now. And the thing was like actually growing tomatoes. So kind of knowing what students are going through, maybe that tomato is the only fresh thing that they could have that morning, or something that they could have as a snack at night. So kind of using stuff where, gardening, you don't really think about it as a health lesson, but if it's the only fresh thing that's going into those students' bodies, you got to make sure that you're setting them up to think about, this is actually kind of easy if I just have a little bit of water to water my tree or my plant here. So that's kind of what I did, just so it made it applicable to the students.
And adding to that, knowing what your students go through. So getting to know your students before you get into, a really tough subject such as, dating abuse or bullying or any of that, because you do talk about things that can really trigger things. So the counselors at your school should be your best friend. If you don't know your students enough, usually kids will come and tell you things, but just check in before you teach certain things, because you don't know you want to foster then your lessons and cater to who is in front of you. Because even at my first job, I was teaching kids very low income. I usually had about 3 to 4 foster kids a class. So that those kids saw more than I have in my whole life, so just being aware of what's going on in their heads before you're just like, let's talk about death and dying today, because who knows what just went on in their life. So just being not cautious about that, but just being aware.
All right, thank you. What time is it? All right, so I'm gonna do one more question, and the last question is gonna be about lesson plans. No matter where we are in our program, we still have to write lesson plans. Do you have any tips and strategies to write in lesson plans?
Yeah.
My advice is write them really well now, because you write a lot in your lesson plan at the university level, but it will help you be able to form any lesson that you will need after that. Because like Matt said, I've never had a curriculum at all 3 schools I've been at in both districts. I've never had a curriculum given to me. I kind of have one now at elementary. It's just like, teach this skill and that skill, and make sure you cover that, and shoe tying and whatever. But learn the skills that you're doing right now. Know how to make a lesson plan, because also when you get observed by your principal or your administrator or whoever, you have to still. I wrote a lesson plan last week for my 4th out of 6 observations that I have. So it's you have to keep doing that. And I will say, lesson planning now is not as much fluff. I really enjoy making block plans. That's how I kind of structure. I don't do a formal document for each thing I've done, but in a unit, I like to kind of see where things go. So block planning has kind of kept with me since that. I think that's something I use daily, and especially in 3 years being at 3 different schools and teaching different kids and different subjects, I have had to reinvent or kind of start fresh every school year so far. So I've, it's been a good way to just figure out where I'm going, what I need to change. And then at high school, when I would go into the next semester, I could see what I want to change. Where I totally had coworkers that also were new PE teachers or health teachers that were like, I don't remember what I did, but because they didn't keep track. They didn't have a lesson plan. They already forgot everything. So do it for yourself. Don't make it a chore. It's your planning. It's important. You want to, and I always think of the lawsuit thing that the professors at Central always grilled into you. If there's something that happens and so gets hurt, you need to be able to show, this was what it was in my lesson for today. This was the safety. This is the, this was my plan, and just to protect yourself.
Did you want to say something, Alex? I know you were.
My fault. Yeah. So, I think me and you was talking a lot about this, like during last semester. Me and you, Teddy, like every time we had, like, you know what I'm saying, our debriefs after each lesson. And, you know, I think you could tell, like with me, like, it's always key terms. Key terms are like my driving point, right? So it's like, we could be talking about the 5 components of fitness that day, but like the key term that day might be reflection, right? The key term for that, the key phrase for that day might be ambition. The key term for that day might be humility, right? Because I'm gonna use my content and I'm gonna drive it back to that key term, because that key term is actually what they're gonna remember, right? So a lot of times, I mean, think about it. Like, you guys have had class, you guys have been in high school before, you guys have taken tons of classes, and there's a ton of information that you learned about in that class that you like. One, you were like, why am I learning this? And then 2, you were like, how am I going to use this, right? But if that was connected to something that was important to you, or something that that you could relate to, you probably would have been able to understand the concept better. And it all depends on who the person is, or depends on, you know, who the learner is. And so, you know, I use key terms, and I really use you know, music and phrases to kind of, you know, drive my learning. And so, like, you know, you might see a clear objective on the board, or you might see a clear objective in a lesson plan. It might say, you know, one of the lessons we're talking about right now in my class is like, how can you use fitness to improve, to decrease your possibility of contracting COVID-19. And so some students were like, what do you mean? Like, I was like, what is the first symptom of COVID-19? One of the first symptoms is like shortness of breath, right? So don't you think, like, if I like improve my cardiovascular endurance, that like maybe my body will be able to fight off COVID-19 better? Because if I didn't, and I just sat there, you know, a lot of high school kids are exploring into other things these days, right? Like, they smoking, they drinking, they doing a lot of different things that they might not, that they probably would have dived into, but now they're doing it at an alarming rate because they have more time, right? And so, you know, do you think that like the drinking and smoking is going to like decrease your chances of getting COVID-19? Probably won't, right? It's probably going to increase your chance. And so we kind of have those conversations, and then we drive it to like, what do they see in their community, right? They see a ton of people drinking. They see a ton of people smoking, right? They see a ton of people that are, you know, not practicing good behaviors and practicing risky behaviors. And so, you know, just think about, like, you guys can have the strongest lesson of all time. You guys can have all the content, all of the links, you know, the best worksheets of all time, right? But like, what is it that you want their true takeaway to be? And what is it that you want them to remember from being part of your class? Do you want them to remember, like, you know, Coach Clark was like really, he's a smart dude. He knows everything about fitness. He's a fitness guru. Or do you want him to be like, I learned so much about myself through the class, and like, because of that, that's why all of this content that I've learned has stuck with me, right? I can't wait to tell someone else about Coach Clark's class, because like, they're lucky to be going to a class like that. And that's how you want your students to talk to you. And you know, I know this is kind of a sidetrack, but talk to them like they're humans, man. Like, we gotta start talking to people like, you know, like, people matter, man. Like, I think sometimes, like, we get to a position and we're a teacher, you know, we start like talking in a different tone, right? Like, you know, I'm a teacher, you're a student. I don't talk to my students at all like they're students. Like, I literally talk to every single student like they're an adult. I treat them like an adult. I joke with them like they're an adult. But I have boundaries. There's certain boundaries that you can't cross, right? And students understand that, because in the way in which I communicate with them. And that's why kind of like everything works full circle. And so, yeah, but with lesson plans, man, you know, my biggest things is like focusing on key terms. You know, what is it that you want their takeaways to be, other than the specific topic that you're going to talk about? Okay, what is that big takeaway? What is that big driving force that you want them to leave with?
Thank you, Alex. Matt, do you have anything you want to add to this, or?
I'll be honest, I haven't done a full-on lesson plan in about a year and a half, and you guys will probably critique my lesson plans big time. I know Professor Dr. Bishop would critique my lesson plans big time. So.
Gotcha. Thank you, though. Thank you for being honest. So we have about 10 more minutes left.
You gotta find your own style, Matt. My lesson plans look different than what I have you do, but I'm not where I'm learning how to do them.
We have about 10 more minutes left, so we're just going to do closing remarks. Any last minute things that you want to say, any suggestions, closing remarks. So whoever wants to start.
Yeah, I'll go first since I've been going last all day, right? So I'll go first. Yeah. Man, like, again, take advantage of every opportunity. I think you guys have already, that's such a, again, I'm not the type of teacher that's like cliche and like has all these like different things that I say. Like, I'm kind of a natural when I speak. And so I don't want you to think that like I'm saying that because it's like we're on this panel and like that's what I'm supposed to say, right? Like, I literally want you guys to really take advantage of every opportunity that is put in front of you. And I think you guys are doing a great job and a great first step, or 10 step, right? By being part of this panel today and on a Saturday at 3 o'clock. Like, it clearly shows, that you guys are invested and you guys care about, being a future professional. You guys can be doing a ton of other things on a Saturday, right? Than sitting on a Zoom call. So, you guys should be extremely proud of that. But yeah, I want you guys to like take advantage of all opportunities and like take this time. Like, you guys are probably all in your 20s, I would assume, right? So, grind, man. These next 5 years, you need to be grinding. You know what I'm saying? Like, you hear somebody like Matthew who's on the call, and he's already working with Eastern Connecticut, and I'm sure that didn't just fall upon his lap, right? That like he grinded for that, like he had to work for that. And so like all of you guys are like in a great position because I've had the opportunity to speak at different PE programs, especially down here, just like through my work with Accountability. I got to speak at the PE program at Howard University, which is the HBCU. I got to speak at the program at UDC, which is University of District of Columbia, and I also got to speak with some of the PE teachers over there, some of the aspiring PE teachers at American University. And I'm not saying that because like I spoke to them. I'm saying that because like there's so many students that like literally don't take advantage and don't kind of leverage the spot that they're in right now. Like, no one's gonna care about you as much as they're gonna care about you right now, because like you're a student, right? You can still use like that youthfulness. You can still use that you're like trying to like make something out of yourself. And this is the time to really leverage that opportunity, leverage the position that you're in right now. And again, if someone is offering experience, like different experiences for you, don't deny them. So like, I'm seeing all these people on the call. Listen, Teddy would tell you, I'm big on like, I'm authentic. So I will call you out. I'll call you out in a heartbeat. So I see like, Ashley on the call. I see Jared on the call, Patrick on the call. I met Ashley before, right? I see Alana on the call, Zach on the call, Miranda on the call, right? Like, I need to see all of y'all in my class at some point from now until June. Because if you don't, then you're not taking advantage of your opportunity, right? Because it's like, I have a class at 9:30, 11 o'clock, and 2:30. All of you guys have time throughout your day to listen to a lesson for 10 minutes. All of you have the opportunity to do that. And all of you have the ability to do that. And so I want to see at least like one day I want to log on to my second period class and see Casey Johnson in the call. I'm like, yo, what up, Casey? Like, what's good, man? Like, let's get it in. Let's learn something today. So, take advantage of all of those opportunities because like, once you get into your field, it's going to be really hard for you to learn from other people because you're so invested into yourself now. You're so invested into like growing what you're doing, and that like although your district might offer professional development, true and like powerful professional development is going to come because you're seeking it. It's not going to just come because like your district is offering it, right? So seek those opportunities, seek those experiences because not only will it set you up, but it will it'll give you connections that will last for a lifetime.
Thank you, Alex. Make sure you have your cameras on when you join Alex's class for 2 points. I remember that. Anyone else, Nicole or Matt, do you have any closing remarks?
Yeah, I'll add in the big thing. So especially with me working with universities, we just had a 2-month gap of no classes, especially with the semester starting a little bit later than usual. And I had every single one of my students in my office, and we were kind of going over a game plan of, hey, over these next 2 months, what are you going to do that's productive? So I had all my people kind of go through and tell me, oh, I'm going to do this. Some people are seniors, and they have to think about that next step post-college. And then I also have freshmen who they're just thinking about trying to get to the next semester and make sure they're doing well in their classes. So that some of the people who are getting ready to graduate, making sure that they're either attending their professional developments, they're getting certified in whatever they want to get certified in. I went to a couple coaching clinics during the break to make sure I'm kind of staying up on all of my knowledge. So especially now, you get so much time to kind of, especially with Zoom classes and WebEx meetings and stuff like that, you could really find a meeting, find some type of professional development that you could learn from, and it's just a night on Zoom. Or it could be showing up to the PE club Zoom class at 3 o'clock. So kind of using that time effectively, I think is massive. So just trying to set up I know I kind of mentioned it earlier, kind of coming up with a game plan of, I want to make sure that I'm teaching next September. How am I going to be able to get prepped for that? Kind of set up time, set up a space where you could make sure that you're getting everything done. You're attending classes so that you're educating yourself. Just because if you don't do it, you're going to be the one that ends up slacking behind, and someone is going to be kind of taking advantage of that. And they're going to be the ones that end up working at a full-time job, having a great gig. And the people that kind of wait on stuff are going to be the ones that kind of takes them a little bit of time to get into something. So I'm always advocating for planning stuff out, making sure you're meeting new people at professional development. I love coming to these meetings. I gave a speech, I think it was 1.5 years ago when I was at Seymour, to the PE club as well. So I just love coming to these things. So kind of take the time to find people that are around you and try and set yourself up for success. So.
And one thing to add, what they're saying, like taking those opportunities, doing more than you're asked, but also find ways to diversify yourself, because a lot of your colleagues and your competition are doing the same things. There's a lot of, and I'm a coach too, I'm not putting that as something you shouldn't do, but there's a lot of coaches in our field. It's what we like to do, but do things that make you different. From the beginning, I was volunteering to present at CAFERD and different things like that. I recently got certified in yoga to add that to my classes and my curriculum, and also teachers need side jobs. So something else I like to do, and it's a passion of mine. So, that's a thing. I like to be involved in road races and different things other than sports, because I found that was a big, at least in who I graduated with, sports was very heavy. So doing things like that. And even at Central, I taught fitness classes, which no one besides maybe some exercise science majors, taught fitness classes at Central. So, that was something different to put on my resume, and then also to just make myself different, because we are all very similar people, and we do similar things, and we're asked to do similar things. But, it's hard enough, I've heard, to get you guys to go to CAFERD and do things, but really volunteer and present and just get out there, because it's hard to get a job, and you need to be different and you need to stand out. And I'm at a place now where I'm at a job that I love, and it took me, I had the resume, I did the things, had great reviews, and, had people to give good phone calls. And, even then it's tough out there. So you have to make your resume and make it something you're proud of. That's also who you are, and the different things that you can bring, and the different skill sets that you have that your school is going to want from you. So.
Well, thank you everyone for attending. Really does mean a lot to me. Great information. Thank you to our guest speakers for coming out. I know it was a nice day today, at least in Connecticut it was. I don't know about you, Alex, but thank you everyone, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thanks, Teddy and Miranda, for organizing this. It was awesome. Thanks, Nicole, Matt, and Alex. Always so good to see you again.
Yeah, thank you, Jorgen.
Yeah, and then I'm sorry. One last thing. Dr. Bishop and Dr. Gagnon have those links to my classes. I'm not playing with y'all. I'm dead serious with y'all. I need to make sure that y'all tune into those classes. All right. So hope to see y'all soon.
He makes me want to pop in.
He invited you. He's expecting you.
I'm going.
Martin, you're not invited.
I'm going anyways. I want the 2 points.
I don't know. Do you teach at 2 a.m.? That's when I'm available, Alex.
Man, we can make it work. I'm sure ain't gonna be no kids awake at that time though. No kids awake at that time, but we'll make.
Well, but if they are awake, they'd be in trouble. So we need to get them in there.
And the last thing they want to do is take my PE class at 2 a.m. in the morning. Let's be real.
It's so good to see all three of you guest speakers. Thank you. And I'm thrilled to see not only the students in my class, but those of you who aren't in my class right now too. It's great to see your faces.
In about 5 years, we'll be seeing some of these same faces, Dr. Martin, Dr. Bishop, doing the same thing with a new crop of undergrads. So cool.
Yeah, giving back, that's the best.
Yep.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Have a good rest of your weekend, everybody. Thanks so much.
Bye, everyone.